us off at our knees.
It's all fabrication.
Mr. Madoff, do you have anything to say?
My wife and I are resilient, we're strong. I think we're going to make it.
Mr. Madoff, say something to your victims, sir.
Shakespeare understood, probably better than anybody else, how complicated human beings are.
There was a status element to investing with Bernie Madoff. A lot of rich people gave him their money, and you could say to other people, oh, I have this guy, and he invests with Bernie Madoff, and if he's good enough for the Palm Beach poobahs, then that says something about me as well.
Bernard Madoff, charged with fraud and money laundering, stands at the heart of perhaps the largest financial scandal in history. I'm Dennis Berman of the Wall Street Journal. Government documents tell plenty about Mr. Madoff, but there's still so many unanswered questions. Where did the money go? Why did people trust Bernie Madoff? How did Mr. Madoff pull off his alleged scheme?
What Madoff did very quickly and very savvily for his own purposes was he covered up what he was doing. He concentrated power in his own hands. No one knew his strategy. He wouldn't tell anyone. He presented it as so brilliant that it could not possibly be shared lest your head explode with the genius of it all.
He had this sort of under-the-radar investment operation that if you were in the right circles, you knew plenty about. When this scandal broke, that's what surprised a lot of people, is a lot of people didn't know he had an investment operation and just sort of knew the brand, the Madoff brand, as this trading business.
Madoff's start came in the 1960s. He was trading penny stocks at the time. Over time, though, Madoff got further into the plumbing of Wall Street, helping people use electronic trading methods to move millions of shares around the stock markets. Sometime during the 1980s, Madoff got less interested in moving stocks around the market and more interested in managing money for wealthy individuals. It's this advisory business that's in the crosshairs of the government investigation.
He operated for about 15 years before he came onto the scene by making an investment in the Cincinnati Stock Exchange and becoming more of a player in electronic trading. Up until then, he had operated in the world of over-the-counter stocks. If you look at his early clients, they were people that he knew from his neighborhood in Queens and Long Island. They were people that knew either his parents or his wife Ruth's parents. He found a lot of people who were very successful and wealthy, but not necessarily financially sophisticated. He worked in the trading business for 40 years, and it's notable that a lot of his clients on the investing side did not come from that business.
I think there's been a lot of misunderstanding about why people gave their money to Madoff, and the word I keep hearing is greed. People invested with Madoff because they were greedy, and there's no doubt some people did. But I think it was mostly about trust. People who were already on the inside with Madoff were very well respected in their communities, at the country club, you know, at the business societies in their towns. And somebody looking for a money manager would turn to that person and say, who should I go to? And that person would say, oh, you know, Madoff is the best, but, you know, you can only get in by invitation. And I don't know if, you know, he'll take you, but I could ask. And then people are just hooked.
The wealthy, over the past few years, ran into all of these investments that they didn't understand. In fact, for many of the wealthy, the less they could understand it, the better it was.
Above all, it was mystique. What was it about Bernie Madoff that made people hand over their life savings? What made Bernie so convincing? People were asking the same questions back in the 1920s when a sweet talker named Charles Ponzi had a plan that no one could refuse. buy his international reply coupons abroad, convert them in the United States for cold hard cash. The scheme fell in on itself and Ponzi landed in jail for 5 years. But every generation, it seems, has its Charles Ponzi.
All you need to sustain a Ponzi scheme is for more money to come in than to go out. And as long as the incoming money is greater than the outgoing money, you can sustain it forever.
There's two types of Ponzi schemes. There's one that from the start is a fraud, where the operator says, I'm going to take this money, and as long as I keep getting more money, I can keep this alive. The other is, it starts out legitimate, something goes wrong, you make a bad bet on the market, and you can't tell your clients that you did this because you know if you do it, they'll probably lose confidence and your business is over.
I think what probably happened is a wave of redemptions hit Madoff, and he panicked, and he said, I can't do it anymore. Then he fessed up, then the whole thing fell apart.
My team and I tried our best to get the SEC to investigate and shut down the Madoff Ponzi scheme, with repeated, incredible warnings to the SEC that started in May 2000, when the Madoff Ponzi scheme was only a $3 to $7 billion fraud. We knew then that we had provided enough red flags and mathematical proofs to the SEC for them where they should have been able to shut him down right then and there.
There have been warning signs for the better part of a decade. In 2000, a Boston-based money manager named Harry Markopoulos raised his concerns to the Securities and Exchange Commission. SEC investigated, and Madoff continued. In 2001, Barron's wrote in a magazine article its concerns about Madoff's investment returns.
Markopoulos was a competitor to Madoff in a lot of ways, and I'm sure that one of the reactions to his complaints might have been, well, that's just sour grapes. In 2001, there were 2 articles written about Bernie Madoff's investment strategy, and he basically described in broad terms a strategy using stock options that, at least in some quarters, created a lot of doubt about what he was actually doing.
Information I had from the options guys I had talked to didn't square with the returns. That was one sign. Then when I talked to some investors, people who had either cashed out of the fund or who had remained and thought Madoff was, you know, terrific, but even they couldn't explain what he was doing, that was the second sign. And then when I couldn't get him on the phone, that was the third sign.
The SEC continues to roar like a mouse and fight like a flea. But what I find the most disturbing about the Madoff case is that no one from the SEC has stepped forward to admit personal responsibility.
The Achilles heel of the SEC or the NASD is that those regulatory bodies have the same revolving door that the Food and Drug Administration has, the Environmental Protection Agency. It's essentially, if you work there, you know that 3, 5, 10 years down the road, you're going to end up getting a job in the industry you are now regulating.
Kevin Bacon, his wife Kira Sedgwick, Steven Spielberg all trusted their money with Bernie Madoff. Hedge funds, banks, even Madoff's own lawyers came to rely on what was quietly known as the Jewish bond. Money flowed in from around the world, from unassuming places like charities and nonprofits. One victim that's trying to make do is the Queen's Council on the Arts, which just lost a $10,000 a year fellowship.
We are the first stop for an artist who needs support, money, community, feedback, anything to support an artist and an artist's dream. We had absolutely no idea that there was anything awry. It was really the day before the news broke, I got a phone call from a mutual friend. The funds that you have allotted for the fellowship may be in danger, and that was all I knew. And then the next day, the news broke. I don't think I have the words to say anything to a man who perpetrated something as unbelievable as that.